Bonsoir tout le monde. Annie, good evening and welcome to the special council meeting with regards to an official plan amendment. I'd like to call this meeting to order. I need a mover and a seconder to adopt the agenda. Moved by Randy and Bob. All those in favor? Thank you. Any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. Let's move on to the application. So this evening, there's a public meeting scheduled for a proposed official plan amendment. It's application number OPA 21-01FR, Municipality of French River. The Planning Act requires that a public meeting be held before council decides whether or not to adopt an official plan amendment. The public hearing serves two purposes. First, to present to council and the public the detail and background to a proposed official plan amendment, and second, to receive comments from the public and agencies before council's decision is made. Monsieur Dumont will provide a summary of the application. From there, the applicant will be requested to make a presentation virtually, followed by questions from the public virtually, either in favor or against the proposal. Council will then have the opportunity to question the applicant, the Director of Planning, or anyone giving presentations. The official plan amendment will then be considered by council later this evening. Monsieur Dumont, would you please advise how the public notice was provided?
So notice of public hearing was posted in the municipal office and was sent by mail to the assessed owners within 120 meters of the property subject to the proposed official plan amendment. And to those persons and agencies likely to have an interest in the application this evening, the notices were sent on November 17th, 2021, being over 20 days prior to this evening's meeting. And included with the notice was an explanation and purpose and effect of the proposed official plan amendment and a key map showing the subject property that's pertaining to tonight.
Thank you. I now declare this portion of the hearing to be a public hearing to deal with application number OPA 21-01FR, Municipality of French River. Monsieur Dumont, will you please summarize the purpose and effect of the proposed official plan amendment and provide any additional information and correspondence relevant to this application? You're on mute, Matt.
I apologize, sorry. So I'm going to just start with the process, how this all kind of started with the planning board. So in terms of process, this started back in September 29, 2020. The potential buyers at the time reached out to the planning board to kind of just understand the situation of the proposal that they're looking at doing. From there, I provided the steps that were required shortly after on October of 2020. And the potential buyers at the time then reached out to a professional planning company. And those consultants, I believe, are present this evening for the meeting. So that was in April of 2021, the new year. And basically, they provided us what we're dealing with tonight, which is an official plan amendment. Also note on a subsequent date, there will be a zoning bylaw amendment also processed to the Municipality of French Rivers Council, but for this evening, it's just the official plan amendment. And so basically the lands are surrounded by a mix of mixed uses, including open space, residential, institutional areas. There's low density residential uses that abut the subject property to the west, parks and open spaces, and institutional uses are to the south. Institutional and recreational open space are to the east. Champlain Street, vacant open space and residential dwellings to the north. So the proposed amendment this evening is to redesignate the lands from institutional designation to village residential policy or designation in the official plan for the sub-east planning area. So in addition, the official plan, as I noted earlier, will have a zoning bylaw amendment at a subsequent date. And the intent of the zoning bylaw application when that time does come is to change the zone of the property institutional 1 to commercial community with special provision under the municipality of French River zoning bylaw. The intent of this evening's application is to permit the development of land to retain. So there's an existing dental office there today. So we want the consultants are proposing to retain that existing dental office. But in addition, they would like to convert the remainder of the space, so the main floor and a portion of the basement, into 4 dwelling units. This basically will facilitate an adaptive reuse of a 1-story building, which currently houses, as I noted earlier, the dental office. So the dental office has been occupied since 2016 and is approximately 1/3 of the area below grade. So that, like I said, the main floor of the 1-story building will be converted to 3 apartment units, and the remaining area below is the remaining area or space below grade where the dental area office is to be converted into 1 apartment building. Secondly, with respect to the official plan, I'll touch on the official plan and zoning bylaw. And just bear with me for a second. So just before I go into the official plan, I just want to kind of give just some educational information regarding official plan amendment to the council this evening, because you rarely see official plan amendments come to council. So for the reason for that in terms of process is the intent tonight, as the mayor noted earlier, is for council to hopefully adopt by resolution supportability of this proposal this evening. And the reason for that is the province is the approval authority. So basically how this process works is I'm treating the applications that we have received at our office in draft form, and I'm processing those applications in draft form. And part of that process is to also have the Sudbury East Planning Board, which we had held a board meeting last Thursday to also adopt the intent of this application. And so this evening, because the property falls within the municipality of French River, it's council's responsibility to also consider adoption of this proposal. And once, if there's adoption from the municipality's council, then I have 15 days to prepare a package, an in-depth package of my report, the public hearing, any subsequent information that pertains to this, as well as the resolutions from the planning board and hopefully from council. And so that package will be put together with myself and Nancy, and we have 15 days to submit that to the province. And then the province has so many days to review that information and make a decision as to whether or not they support that information that I put together for this official plan amendment. So that's how the process works for the approval authority. So most of the time zoning bylaw amendments, the approval authority is council. That's the number one type of application. You pretty much see me on a month-to-month basis be presented to council. But in this particular case, it's different because the province is the approval authority, and it's a rare type of application. Why it's a rare type of application is because typically official plan amendments, the intent of them is developers or proposals are usually consistent with them. So most of the time when people pursue developments, they're going against the official plan. That's probably the norm, but in this particular case, the proposal is not going against the official plan. It's more of a housekeeping item in terms of designations. Just like zoning, when you look at zoning, you typically want to change a zone from residential to commercial. So if you think of it in that lens, The same applies for an official plan. The only difference, rather than focusing on zones, is designations. And in this particular case, it's always been designated institutional. So as a result of that, the current proposal doesn't support that conversion of a multi-use building, which has a little bit commercial and residential to it due to the designation. So as a result of that, the applicant or consultant is proposing to redesignate those lands to village residential policy. So institution to village residential policy, which falls under the village of Noelville. So just basically, there's a lot of supportability with language in that village policy area, which fully supports mixed use developments as this, because we have that commercial and residential component. So I'd be more than willing to kind of dive a little deeper if anyone has any questions pertaining to the policy framework, which is addressed in my report. It's quite lengthy in terms of the official plan as well as zoning bylaw. So I've just kind of just provided a generality and try to keep it very simple, hopefully to council and understanding the purpose and intent of this type of application this evening. With that said, I'm just going to jump into the agency comments. So the municipality of French River had no comments or concerns regarding this. Part of that process that I kind of touched on with council earlier is the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing. So again, that's the province. They have their own process. So I have to abide to their process, which results in this process taking a long time. Most processes are 90 days, 120 days. But when you're dealing with an official plan, you're dealing with the province. Why? Because they're the approval authority. As a result of that, that process can take a year. So with that said, the province had provided me comments in order for me to pursue this process. And their comments were provided on August 3rd, 2021. Another very important point to this submission was well water, because we have an existing dental operation in an existing building. So now suddenly you're not only having that operation, but you're also going to intensify it by increasing 4 residential units, which will require a certain capacity of water. So part of that process, which was a process that the province, as well as myself, was concerned about, we needed validation and ensuring that should I support this, we do have that capacity to support 4 residential units, as well as septic system, which is a municipal service within the village of Noelville. So that's separate. The well is private. So with that said, we did receive comments from Who Well Drilling Limited, and it stated explicitly that the existing well was more than 20 gallons per minute, which is Canada Mortgage Housing Corporation requirement code of 3 gallons. So they require 3 gallons per minute from one household. Therefore, the technician or well technician does not anticipate any problems with water supply. That letter was received by our office on October 1st of 2021. And lastly, I did receive one comment from the adjacent property owner who is opposed to this application this evening because they're concerned due to the existing sewer problems and ongoing water issues with well. So their issue or concern is the running their unit. They have a residential unit abutting the property, so they're concerned of running out of well water. So that was the concern that I did formally receive by email. With that said, no other comments were received at the date of this report in the application. Therefore, summarizing this application or official plan amendment, I'm of supportability with respect to our provincial guidelines, as well as our local guidelines, specifically the official plan and zoning bylaw from the municipality of French River. And I'd be open to any further questions regarding this application.
Thank you, Matt. So does the applicant have a presentation or statement? I think, Vanessa, you're on line.
Hi, everyone. Mrs. Smith, Telic Engineering.
Did you want to make a comment or?
Yeah, absolutely. I will try not to take up much of your guys' time this evening. I believe Matt has said most of everything I was going to say, but we are proposing to redesignate the property from institutional to village residential in order to facilitate the adaptive reuse of the existing building for a medical office and for multiple dwelling units. The proposed development would see the dental office continue to exist in about a 1/3 of the below grade of the building, and the remaining below grade area is proposed to be converted into a 2-bedroom apartment, and the main floor would get 3 1-bedroom apartments. As Matt explained, the reason we are before you guys this evening is that the current institutional designation only permits for your traditional institutional uses such as schools, government offices, places of worship, and not multiple dwellings. Your official plan allows for the redesignation of institutional lands subject to a criteria that Matt has outlined in his report for you. And we are of the opinion that the property meets this test for redesignation, given that the proposed residential use will support meeting housing targets and bring more affordable housing into your community. We are proposing to redesignate to village residential because it permits for both medium density residential uses, such as 4-unit dwellings, in addition to small scale neighborhood commercial and personal service uses like medical offices. So we were of the opinion that that was the most appropriate designation to for the lands. Other than that, we agree with Mr. Dumont's statements that the designation is consistent with the provincial policy statement, the growth plan for Northern Ontario, and meets the general intent of the official plan. Besides that, I just want to thank the Sudbury's Planning Board, as well as the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing. They've been quite supportive through this entire process. It was my pleasure speaking to you all this evening, and I welcome any questions.
Thank you, Vanessa. I don't think there's any members of the public online. No. Are there any questions or comments from council? Oh, Renee?
So I guess this question just to Matt about the zoning. So you said commercial community and you, Vanessa, said rural residential zoning. So I believe it's the commercial community zoning. And I was just wondering if down the road, what happens when there's no more dental office in there? Does that affect the zoning down the road, Matt? Or will it just stay community commercial?
Okay. Through you, Madam Chair. Sorry, can you hear me?
We can.
Okay. So to your point, Renee, so if there was a misunderstanding, I apologize. Just to clear it up, it is will be the intent is to get the approvals of this type of application. If all goes well with the province, once we get that, then it makes sense for me then to bring forth the rezoning application. I wanted to give you share with you the whole picture and how this will kind of all play itself without getting too confused. But with respect to the zoning, I'll just touch on it for now, but there'll be a report later on for that too. The commercial community allows for multiple dwellings. So say, for example, to your point, the business is no longer operational in the future. Those residential units will still be a permitted use under that commercial community zone. And should somebody wish to then maybe decommission the dental office, there could be an opportunity to then maybe even further expand that space to an additional residential unit.
And at that time, it would still stay under commercial because it's got 5 apartments in it?
Through you, Madam Chair, that is correct. Because it could be misleading in the sense that you're thinking commercial is business, and I can understand the way that you're thinking. but when you, commercials are very, very valuable use. Why it's very valuable? Because it allows for a tremendous amount of opportunities, and those opportunities not only are business, but are actually residential too, which facilitates that, multiple dwelling, meaning more than like 3 units, 4 units, 5 units, etc. A high rise, medium high rise. So it's still, will be allowed, for that specific zone.
Okay, thank you.
Randy?
Through you, Madam Chair. Thank you. I just had a quick question about that main floor being cut into 3 units. Are they 3 self-contained units with 3 separate kitchens and bathrooms, or is it a shared kitchen bathroom with 3 bedrooms rented to 3 separate people? Just curious because the amount of water usage, obviously, in 3 separate kitchens and bathrooms does play a significant draw.
Through you, Madam Chair, to Randy's question. So that question will be, that question should be directed and should be directed to the chief building official. The reason I say that is that question is directed to the Building Code Act. So for now, in terms of a land use perspective, the intent is for dwelling units. So as long as that intent is satisfied, which I believe it will be, then it comes down to meeting the building code in terms of construction of those units. So it'd be fair to maybe follow up with the chief building official when the time does present itself, to get clarity on that question. But also to note that, again, the zoning bylaw from a land use perspective does not allow for, in this particular case, a boarding house, which allows for a shared facility, to your point. So to make this very clear from a land use perspective, they're dwelling units which have to be enclosed, because if it's going to be open, then it's a different type of use, and we're no longer having this discussion this evening.
Thank you, Matt. I was just looking for clarification, just to be sure I knew what we were voting on. It's a little hard to go back after we make a vote here official today to then ask the chief building official the exact plan. Maybe the Tulloch representative could just chime in, and because she's had a little more hands-on with the client, just to give us an exact overview of that top floor, because the property itself is quite small. Thank you.
Through you, Madam Chair, the intent is that each of the dwelling units would have their own bathroom, kitchen, and separate facilities.
Thank you for answering the question.
Are there any further questions or comments? Renee?
Right now, though, Matt, the current zoning, it's not zoned properly right now, even for a dental office, right? So we do have to change the zoning of that building no matter what.
Through you, Madam Chair, you are correct, Renee, in terms of the current use, the dental is appropriately zoned with the institutional today. It's a right of use. So the zoning will be eventually triggered due to the implementation of those residential units. So right now it's okay, but the intent, I guess the reason we're here tonight and at a later date for the zoning is because they want to have those residential units with that dental unit, dental office.
Are there any further questions or comments? Seeing none, then I declare this public hearing to be concluded, and it's now for a council member to make a motion and for council to consider the adoption of the application. So I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Renee, seconded by Rick.
It is duly moved and seconded. Be it resolved that bylaw 2021-75, being a bylaw to adopt amendment number 1 to the official plan for the Sudbury East Planning Area, Municipality of French River, be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed.
Thank you. All those in favor? Thank you. Please be advised that there is a 20-day appeal period during which time any person or public body may, no later than 20 days after the day that the giving of the written notice as required by section 1735 of the Planning Act is completed, appeal all part of the decision of the approval authority, the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, to the Ontario Lands Tribunal by filing a notice of appeal with the approval authority. Until these appeal periods have expired, no building permit may be issued or other work commenced. And with that, I'll call for an adjournment. So I need a mover and a seconder, Rick and Bob. All those in favor? Thank you. Have a good evening. Thank you, Matt, Vanessa, and everybody online.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great night.
Have a good evening.
Good evening.